How's it going, boys and girls? Good to see everybody in the chat. Interesting, like little setup of development here. As of like maybe, I don't know. What do you think, DaVonte? Just like maybe a couple minutes, a couple hours.
Yeah.
where we were just kind of putting stuff together. But I think DaVonte and I were kind of like chatting back and forth here or there, just talking. Kind of giving our thoughts to each other, kind of trying to get together for something like this, and now we're together to do this really awesome setup, and I think it's gonna be awesome. Let's talk about some Falcons. Let's definitely let them have it, huh?
All right, let's let them have it.
So Lieutenant Dan here for you guys on your Friday. Happy 420 for those who partake. And for those who don't, happy Friday, Falcons Friday for all of you guys. DaVonte, give me that sound test. Give me that good introduction. DaVonte.
Hello, everyone. My name is DaVonte Hughes from ATLSPORTSHQ.com. Be sure to check that out. The link will be in the description, and let's get this show started.
All right. I love it. I love the fire in the voice there. I love the setup. We're just running. So, when we were discussing about what we were going to talk about today, we were talking about what are the possibilities for us in the first round, and what the Falcons will be looking for going forward. Let's get your thoughts on that. What do you think the number one need for the Falcons to address is?
It's definitely defensive tackle. You know, when Dontari Poe left going to the Panthers, that left a big hole there. Like, who's going to sit or who's going to start next to Grady Jarrett and start penetrating? And it looks to be with the guys there, like visiting, they're having guys that aren't the prototypical nose tackle type. They're trying to get guys to around like 280, 300 pounds that can actually penetrate, switch around. They're multiple positions play, base defensive end, slide in, DT for nickel. They're getting guys such as that. Like, and specifically to have a guy like Taven Bryan out of Florida, he could possibly replace Derek Shelby or in nickel, slide in, play defensive tackle, and go from there.
Yeah, I think that it is definitely a look at defensive tackle for somebody that can play that inside nose tackle role and switch over to 3-tech in their nickel look. And I like the discussions that are happening. I want to bounce something off of you that I've heard from their last press conference, but also from a couple of guys here or there. That what would you think about taking Marcus Davenport in the first round, and instead of playing him at defensive end, allow him to kick inside to defensive tackle?
That sounds very interesting, actually. Having versatility along the roster is definitely the way to go in today's NFL.
Yeah, I heard in the interview with Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff that they were talking about there are some defensive ends who could potentially jump inside and play 3-tech defensive tackle or more. And I started thinking about some defensive ends that could possibly be there like that, a Chad Thomas maybe, or an RJ McIntosh, or and the list is very short of Falcons defensive ends, at least college defensive ends that the Falcons are looking at that could play that same position. But we haven't seen every one of their private 30 workouts, have we, DaVonte?
No, we haven't.
So, like, what are your thoughts on adding a defensive end early over a defensive tackle?
If we were to do that, they would have to be able to play multiple positions, because we can't just get a guy that can only play 1-tech, that can only play 3-tech. We have to get people who can slide around and always keep the offense guessing, such as a Michael Bennett type player. I'm not saying that anyone is specifically such his type, but you have to get a player that can be versatile.
Yeah, like in that 270, 280 range where they can jump inside, outside, be very physical at the point of the attack, and be able to rush the passer while still being able to set edges and stay inside and against guards and even possibly centers in some cases. Um, what are your thoughts? I know that you were talking early about the possibility of grabbing a corner. Give me those thoughts on grabbing a corner.
Uh, Corners such as Mike Hughes out of UCF and Jair Alexander, they aren't the corners that Dan Quinn speaks of like that. They're not 6 foot tall. They're 5'10", but they can lock their man down and cover really well. So we can possibly think about blitzing more or doing things such as that. So if we get corners, we get those three top corners locked down. Rocky Alford's getting older. Desmond Trufant, had a first full healthy season off that injury. So we got to keep having depth because we saw last season, we saw what's his name, C.J. Goodwin. He got tore up. I'm tired of these wide receivers to defensive back conversions and then having them play a vital role in our defense. We got to get some guys in there that could potentially take the spots of Robert Alford and Desmond Trufant in the near future.
The moment that you mentioned the kid out of UCF, I swear I had to like step back and just I love that. I love that idea of bringing him in as possibly a slot corner, allow him to kind of develop a little bit, and then maybe even take over one of those positions as a top corner on the Atlanta Falcons, with the possibility, obviously, of Desmond Trufant and Robert Alford getting a little older. I haven't seen any drop-off in play as far as Trufant and Alford is concerned. What do you think of this DB core, and where would you put in a new body into this area outside of the nickel?
I think the core right now, outside of the top two, and you can probably put in Poole, but he is coming off a not too terrible seasons, but it wasn't as great as his first season here. So that makes you think. You go down the list, you see Bleedy Red Wilson, and he was added late, and you see a Leon McFadden. It doesn't. None of those names really jump out to you. So you need to add someone to potentially play that fourth person in the dime set or push for that nickel.
Yeah, the DBs that the Falcons have looked at is a pretty hefty list. Lyndon Stevens out of Cincinnati, Grant Haley out of Penn State, Isaiah Oliver is probably the biggest name that is on this list, out of maybe DJ Reed maybe. Man, there's Jair Alexander are some of the top names that the Falcons have brought in, but none of them have gotten any top 30 workouts. None of them have gotten brought in for any private workouts. What does that say to you as far as the Falcons maybe grabbing one of these guys early, but none of them have been given a private workout?
I think I read something earlier that most of our picks have been our top 30 workouts, except at least one guy such as like DaVonte Casey. So it's always going to be that one guy that you might not want to let other teams know that you're looking at,
right?
But then you grab him, and then he does great for your offense or defense, or whatever you want to do.
Right. We don't have a lot of safety depth. And, I mean, outside of Neal and Allen, who still hasn't signed his tender, by the way, which is interesting to note. Outside of those two, we really don't have a lot of depth behind that. I mean, I know a lot of people are talking about DaVonte KZ as a potential successor to Allen and what he brings to the team. But is there anybody that you see in this class that would be worthy of one of those top 3 round picks for Atlanta? Is there anybody that you've heard of that could come in and slot in with Atlanta in that free safety or maybe even a backup strong safety role?
Backup safety. I watched the video. It was on NFL Network. I forget the guy's name. They talked about possibly replacing Rico Allen. I have to find out what that guy's name was.
I know that we looked at Corey Griffin, the Georgia Tech free safety or strong safety, whichever side he plays. Just as an interest look, we looked at him, I think, at the local day, and then we also looked at him during his pro day at Georgia Tech. And he is a versatile piece. He could be a very late round kind of guy that we could pick up and kind of stow behind Neal. It's not like we're looking for Neal to actually get replaced. So it's
Yeah,
it yeah.
but if you look at it, you know Sherrod Niesman, he's gone, so you don't really have no one there. If you think that DaVonte Casey is a free safety, or he's going to be challenging for nickelback spots, but if you think he's there, it's just what, three safeties. So you got to add someone. But since it's a backup, I see that most of these guys are slated to be undrafted free agents.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is that they're either A, trying to trade up, which I wouldn't personally do, but if they do it, draft day, I would be fine with it because I'll be fine with whatever they pick. As long as this guy is a baller.
I always step back and think about the question that D-Led said to Vita Vea, which was, have you had any interviews with Atlanta? And he smiled the biggest grin that I've ever seen any Tongan Samoan man has ever smiled. And he said, yeah, we had a really fun, interesting little interview. And that has stuck with me for how long has it been since the combine? for a couple weeks now, maybe a month now. And I just keep thinking back to how the nose tackle position is really undervalued. Like, they really don't value the nose tackle position in the NFL. What are your thoughts on a potential trade up for Daron Payne or Vita Vea, or maybe even Tevin Bryan if for some reason someone values him really high on the list?
It would have to. I would have to say, you really have to think these guys are potential Pro Bowlers, because if you're going to trade up to like at least probably with the top 15 for Vea, something like that, you got to think that they can come into your offense and have an immediate impact. And if you don't think that, you need to trade down and collect guys who you think you can mold it to be that future, Dante Poe, future Grady Jarrett, such as players just like that.
I look at this team and I see not gaping holes, but holes nonetheless that can be filled by some good talent, and then just have backup guys or guys that can just kind of step in front of them and be a bridge. And I like that about what we did last year with Takk McKinley, where obviously as weeks went on, you and I both saw him get better and better and better and better, and all the little things started to come through: the hand usage, setting an edge against opposing tackles and fullbacks, and manhandling wide receivers if they try to block them, and beating up running backs and beating up quarterbacks, and the speed rush became more of a power rush, and his bend got better. But there was that bridge guy in Adrian Claiborne. What do you think of Jack Crawford being a bridge guy for a guy like Vita Vea or Daron Payne, Harrison Phillips, Mo Hurst, or any of these other guys?
I think at D tackle, we're going to need someone that can definitely step in early. I'm not sure if Jack Crawford would be like a starting bridge guy, but I would like him to be like that backup who can come in and show you exactly how it's done. With Claiborne, he had to start at right defensive end. Sometimes slid into defensive tackle on nickel. I think he had to do that, which is why I'm kind of glad he left. He was a great player, but I'm kind of glad he left because I want to see more Takk McKinley. I don't want no one taking snaps from him. If he can get six sacks in the regular season and 2 in the playoffs, and this is your first year, you need to let that guy go and go off and do whatever he can do.
And most of his sacks came from one game where he took on the backup of a backup left tackle. And that's like, yes, you should be taking advantage of those situations, but why didn't you take advantage of situations against other teams? Like, shouldn't you be a better player than just taking advantage of it reminds me of like seagulls when they see some bread like drop on the sand. Like, yeah, that's great, but you're a bird. Shouldn't you be like going to get some like grubs or something somewhere? Like, shouldn't you be working for your food?
Statistically, if you look at his stats, if you take out that one game, he has like 3.5 sacks. So not really from a statistical standpoint, he's not that productive. But when you watch him, yes, he's getting pressure. But you did need that young guy to come in and potentially, actually get to the quarterback, actually get the sack, register the sack. Someone alongside of Vic Beasley who did have kind of a down year. I'm not gonna really call it a down year, but he did what he could because you putting that man in coverage, which is just a I don't even want to talk about how
Ugh.
horrible of a decision that is. And you watch all his college tape and you're like, none of this is him going into coverage. Why are we doing that?
I'm 100% against that, and I'm so glad that he's getting moved back to a full-time role at defensive end, and that helps because when Adrian Claiborne leaves, there's a whole heckload of snaps that become available and open, and you can divide those between Vic Beasley and Tack McKinley and take a little bit of Brooks Reed out of the equation sometimes and allow these guys to go and attack. And when I was thinking about this, and I thought about, at the earlier part of this conversation where there are some defensive ends that could play defensive tackle, we've looked at a heckload of defensive ends. What do you think of a private 30 workout that we gave to Harold Landry?
Harold Landry. What I'm seeing is people keep comparing him to Vic Beasley, and I'm like, I don't know if we need two of those. I
Right.
like Vic Beasley, but two of those because you're gonna have at least you would have at least have one of those guys actually play strong side linebacker.
Yeah.
Since I know Vic Beasley is listed there, but that's just a lie. I've never seen him really, stand up there. I always watch him when he has his hand in the dirt.
Yeah. I look at the defensive ends that the Falcons have been interested in. Contavious Street with that knee injury, we met him at the Senior Bowl. Joe Osman, Central Michigan, we met him at the Senior Bowl. Jalen Holmes, we met with at his pro day, I believe. Everyone else, as I go down, a lot of the Dog fans will know Davin Bellamy from Georgia. We were at he was at our local day, but the two guys that we gave private workouts to were Jake Martin and Harold Landry. And Harold Landry strikes me as a Vic Beasley type. And Jake Martin strikes me as more of a traditional defensive end. What are your thoughts on possibly moving on from Vic Beasley?
Right now, I'm still hanging on to that 15 sacks. Is it 15? I
Yeah,
think it's
it's
that 15
15 and a
sack
half, I
season.
think.
Like
Something like
I
that.
don't. We haven't seen no one do such a thing, such as since like John Abraham. We can't just give up on him because hey, his first season he had an injury. He told us about it, and people were ready to give up on him. Then next season he comes out and he becomes Von Miller light or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the third season he's playing a position he has no reason playing. I feel like we give this guy one job, which is get to the quarterback. We're going to see great things. And we need to let him do what his job is, get to the quarterback. That's what he was brought here to do. Let him stay doing that. And I think a future problem may present such as like paying all these young good guys. You're gonna probably gonna have to let someone go, such as like Tevin Coleman. I know Thomas Dimitroff said he was gonna try to keep him, but not sure what you can do there when it comes to money getting tight. Like right now, we have like what 2 million in cap.
Something really like 1.9 or 1.5 million dollars left, and this Matt Ryan contract continues to loom over our heads. But before I get into that, I want to finish off some of the positional stuff. Outside linebacker, I know that you might be excited about some of the guys that are on this particular list. Ochina Nwosu, Dorian O'Donnell, Junior Joseph, Jack Cincy. Anybody, Rashad Evans, Leighton Vander Esch, are there any of those guys right there that excite you by name, or is there someone in the ether that we have not heard of yet?
I wouldn't say not heard of, but not really getting talked about is Jannard Avery from Memphis.
Ooh, ooh,
I
okay.
think he would step in and do great things, such as like he could back up what middle linebacker, possibly weak side linebacker. He could back that up. If it was something, if it was someone that we heard about, but no one's talking about for the Falcons, I'm going to say Shaquem Griffin.
Mm.
I know he has one hand. I don't care about one hand. If he could do better than people with two, let him do better with people with two.
I told people when Combine ended that I don't care where he plays on the football field. I just want to see that man play football on a football field at the next level. And I've been so excited about that guy. I would love to have him on the team. I don't know what I would give. Maybe I'd give my hand. I'd give my hand to have to have Shaquem Griffin on the team. On the offensive side of the ball, I know we were talking about tight ends. we've only had 2 tight ends that we've had any interest in. Do you think that is probably because we're holding out on particular tight ends falling, or do you think it's just because we don't have any interest?
I think it's because they're still thinking about, or should we give Eric Saubert a chance, or should we give, Alex Gray a chance? Because those are guys are potentially being the, second, third tight end. We're not trying to replace Hooper. So if we were trying to replace Hooper, then I would understand if we had a lot more interest in guys such as Hurst and Dallas Gosecki, or I'm probably said his name wrong, but those guys right there.
Right. Looking at Ian Thomas and Hayden Hurst, guys that we looked at, and Ian Thomas from Indiana got a private workout from us as a top 30 private workout, and I really like what he does. But kind of surrounding this offense is a slew of offensive linemen that we've looked at. Of course, you know that the Falcons weren't going to shy away from that position just because we had some bad picks here or there. But looking at the guys that are on here, a lot of them are second and third round and fourth round guys. Is there anyone that you see on this board in your own mind, not who the Falcons have looked at, but is there anybody on this board that you think has to be an Atlanta Falcon, needs to be in red and black, needs to come in with the impending Jake Matthews contract and the left guard situation not that great with Levitri kind of, banged up and not the best, and Fusco as a I wouldn't say a average guy, but I would say just kind of there, Is there anybody on this list that you would just be like, gotta grab him this draft?
I think it would it would be like guys such as like Billy Price or like Frank Ragnow. Because they could potentially be that left guard or for right now. And then when Alex Mack is ready to go on, slide over to center and lock that position down so we don't have to worry about that for the future.
What do you think of Mike McGlinchey, the Notre Dame, and I think cousin, right? He's a cousin of Matt Ryan.
Yeah, his cousin.
Yeah, he had a private 30 workout with the Atlanta Falcons as a guard. What do you think about him possibly getting drafted in the first round for the Falcons?
A first round guard, I'm not sure about unless they really feel like that Levitri is not coming back from that injury he had.
And I know that maybe picking him in the first round would make most Falcons pissed off. Falcons fans pissed off? Would you be upset with a first round offensive lineman?
Personally, yes, because I feel like there are more pressing needs. Because when you look at the offensive line right now, you got Jake Matthews on the left, you got Levitri, you got Mack, Brandon Fusco, and then you got Ryan Strader. That sounds solid for right now. When you think about a first round pick, you're thinking about someone that could immediately come in and impact your team.
What do you think about the wide receiver position right now? Because I'm not going to talk about fullback because fullback is always so up in the air and you never know who's going to get picked, maybe late round or whatever. But what do you think about the wide receiver core that is in this particular class? Is there anyone that stands out to you?
Only just Deshaun, I think. Deshaun Hamilton from Penn State.
Yeah.
I think he has the potential to be a game breaker if he was in that slot position. Because we know right now we do have Justin Hardy sitting right there. Well, to me, he's sitting right there. I know they talked about Marvin Hall and Reggie Davis, but, they're undrafted guys. They're not really proven, especially in game. We saw in the Saints game where Marvin Hall dropped the ball and got to, I think it was the butt pick from Marshawn Lattimore. I think that was off him. But we need guys that can be pure speed and catch the ball at a high rate. Like we had Gabriel. I guess Sark did not know how to use him at all. We know that. But if he gets his own guy that he looked at his tape and said I can use him, then I think we'll be all set.
Just some prospect info on Deshaun Hamilton out of Penn State, wide receiver, 6'1", 205, solid numbers for a slot guy, nice and tall, with a vertical jump of 34.5 inches and a broad jump of 118, and a 3-cone drill of 6.84 seconds, and a 20-yard shuttle of 4.15, and I don't see a 40-yard dash. I think he skipped that. So, I mean, solid numbers all the way across, yeah?
But personally, I think replacing Taylor Gabriel in-house is the way to go.
Oh, yeah?
Because I think Justin Hardy has been waiting for his chance. He's a very good receiver. People don't understand that because he doesn't get that many snaps. But when he gets them snaps, he makes very clutch plays. I
Interesting.
think if you have that with increased snaps, he's going to shine for this team.
Is this the draft that we get a replacement for Tevin Coleman with the possibility of losing him?
It could be a possibility, but I feel like that would have to be a mid round selection because if it's in the top three, I know the Falcons fans are going to riot. Like if it's like Nick Chubb, well, people are going to love Nick Chubb, but like the real fans are going to be like, really, we got a second round running back.
Oh man, I'm looking at all the guys that we talked to. Darrell Williams out of LSU, Chase Edmonds out of Fordham, Kellen Ballage out of ASU, Boston Scott, Nick Chubb, J.J. Green, Malik Williams, Ryan Nall, Naheem Hines, Jalen Samuels, Ronald Jones the second, or the third, whichever he is. I'm looking at all these guys and I'm like, there's a lot of Tevin Colemans in this draft. There's a lot of guys that remind me a lot of Tevin Coleman, maybe not by size and shape, but a lot of their running styles are about the same. So do you think that we're still looking for somebody that could run like Tevin and maybe just continue to run like Tevin?
Yeah, I believe we need someone that could technically just be just like Tevin because you could potentially have Tevin in the game and just drafted running back and have them both run routes and further stretch the defense out. We need more of that.
Do you? And now we'll get to the main conversation here, which is the Matt Ryan contract still hasn't been done, and we are less than a week away from the draft. And with that being said, it's really strapped us to be able to sign our own guys, but not only that, but sign free agent guys. Do you think that a long-term deal gets done, and do you think that we draft a backup this year?
Oh, I think a deal will certainly get done. I think they've been working on it for too long to just say, thank you, Matt Ryan, for your time in Atlanta. And I also think if we trade down in the fourth and grab an extra fifth, then we'll grab someone that we can mold. Because I know Matt Schaub is a decent backup. But I think he's older. We need someone that can definitely be the future. Will possibly be the future. But if he's a decent backup for years to come, I'll accept that as well. But we need somebody. I think the guy out of Memphis, Riley Ferguson. I think that'd be an interesting pick for us.
I saw quite a few guys on this list: Riley Ferguson, Quentin Flowers, Alex McGaw, Kurt Benkret, Tanner Lee, and Brandon Goodson. And none of these names, none of them, absolutely none of them, scream starter to me. Nor do they scream like, oh, potential guy to take over for Matt Ryan. These all scream backup of a backup. Maybe someone that can hang on with the team and then be a bridge quarterback for somebody else somewhere down the line. Do you draft a quarterback this year, or do you just pass on it and go into the free agent market after the draft is done and go get yourself a rookie or something?
I feel like in the late rounds, you possibly can draft someone specifically to replace Matt Schaub. Or Matt Ryan replacement would probably be first round, whenever that has to be.
Right. So was there any other topics that you wanted to cover on your end? Was there anything that you wanted to bring up?
Not really. Just want to talk about the draft. I'm really excited for Thursday, so I just want to. I'm gonna watch the first round, the whole thing. I'm gonna try to get off Twitter because they be spoiling picks. So.
Hey man, you know that I will be there live at the draft on draft night, and I'm shutting my Twitter down, bro. I am turning it off. I'm not gonna have it going at all because there's gonna be people talking and there's gonna be so many people atting me, and I'm just gonna be like, okay, just off. It goes off. If you guys want to see something, you'll see it live here on YouTube on Unintentional Grounding, or you'll see it live on my Instagram or something like that. You better stay locked on one of those. But give them a plug your stuff, man. Tell them where to find you.
everyone, you can find me on ATLSPORTSHQ.com. We are currently trying to sell shirts. We have shirts now. We're trying to sell the shirts. That's going to be the first thing you see when you go to the website. Also, our names, handles, and everything is on there. You can find us. And personally, you can find me at Cookie by Nature. I do follow back. You can talk to me whenever, Falcons, whatever. I don't care what sport you want to talk about. I will talk to you. So I hope everyone has a nice day. It was good talking to you.
Hey man, it was a pleasure talking to you. It was lots of fun to discuss some of this stuff. I know that it does get stale after a little while because you're just like you're built up with all this anticipation and you've talked about it like 900 times. I swear you've both of us have probably been up in bed thinking about all the extra things that the Falcons could do in this draft. Like, oh, what could they trade back in the first? Could they go back up in the first and go and grab somebody?
I can't tell you how many times I've been on FanSpeak doing a little simulation.
Oh man, first pick for me. It's like crack, bro. It's like crack. I'm just on there, just like, can I trade down like 3 more times in the first round? Just trading down a couple more picks, grab a couple more things, then load this team up with talent.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate all of you guys supporting the channel. Find me on UNR_show on Twitter and on Instagram. Go hit us up on Patreon. Support the cause and help us get to some of our donation milestones so that we can get better equipment and upload more frequently here on YouTube. And definitely go check us out on Mixer. Goody Ram Sam on Mixer. I will friend you back on Xbox if you friend me. We can play some games, talk some Falcons football, talk life, anime, whatever you guys want to talk about on mixer.com/GodyRamSam. My name is Lieutenant Dan. That was DaVonte Hughes, and this was Unintentional Grounding Live. Talking a little mock draft, talking a little regular draft, talking about all things Falcons football. See you guys later. As I say at the end of every one of my shows, you're listening to nothing but the facts and the truth. Be the media, folks. Be the media. Peace. Hair grease.